A bottle jack, a radio-controlled car, some black paint. That is the entire parts list for this Batman's car, and the next thing he builds is a dump truck. You know, the alley, the pearls, the two bodies. None of it happens here. It happens at the Gotham City Zoo on a school field trip in front of a class. The man holding the door shut against his own son is a school teacher. Years on, a private network prices the boy's surviving mother at $1 million. And the one time this Bruce Wayne is handed real money, he sets it on fire. $200 million, shaped into a bat, burning over the city. Then he walks into a charity ball and starts hunting the guests. Every Batman you have ever met was paid for. The cave, the car, the plane, the years abroad learning from foreign masters. All of it is a purchase. The billionaire is not a detail sitting beside the character. It is the machinery that makes the character possible at all. Take the money away and the usual expectation is a smaller Batman. A local one, a worse one. This book takes the money away and argues that none of it was ever holding the weight. So we're going to walk the first 6 issues off the pages and count what was taken and what got put in its place. DC sold the book on Subtraction. The launch copy promised a Batman without the money, the mansion, or the butler. Scott Snyder writes it, Nick Dragotta draws it, and it goes on sale in October 2024. It ends with $200 million in cash placed in front of a man who has never had any of it. What he spends that on is the whole argument, and we will get there. A boy wins a school prize. The file a professional assassin builds on him 20 years later runs to about 4 lines. 24 years old, mother a social worker, father a teacher, raised in crime alley. He tests near genius, and in 5th grade he wins a student engineering competition with a collapsible bridge for disaster zones. It folds like origami, and it is modeled on the anatomy of a batwing, which is where the bat in this story actually comes from. Not a cave, not a window, a homework assignment about how to get aid into a place that has been wrecked. And the prize is a trophy and a trip to the Gotham Zoo for his entire class. So the field trip is his. He won it, and he brought everyone he loved along to it. He remembers walking in laughing about how strange the giraffes looked. He remembers his father a few steps behind him, and how proud the man was. He is playing it cool about that, and catching glimpses of it anyway. And he tells a courtroom later that he knew, right then, this was as happy as it was ever going to get. An hour earlier, the man was working, because he was the chaperone and the teacher both. The class stops at the lion enclosure, and a boy jokes that the lion has it made. 20 hours of sleep, prime rib 3 times a day, afraid of nothing. His father agrees, and then adds the sentence this whole video is about. The lion is coddled, so it will never affect anything. It will never mean very much. Then he softens it, because the boy arguing with him is his own son, and the room is full of 10-year-olds. They start bickering about a film, the one his parents met at, which he is being dragged to that evening. 2 panels later, a gunshot. Skip forward. 2 children on a rooftop, one of them in cat ears, holding a stolen first-place medal to make him chase her. She walks him out onto a cable 2 stories up and tells him not to look at the drop. Cats see well, she says, but only over short distances, so do not see anything past this ledge. That is Selina Kyle, aged about 11, teaching him the only piece of tradecraft he ever actually gets taught. And years later, in a cinema, she throws his father's lion back at him. Safe and cozy, she says, and it did not mean anything. So this is your chance to mean something. The friends know the line. They were in the room when it was said, which leaves one person who heard it and is not a child. And in every other version of this story, she is already dead. But before we meet her, subscribe and put notifications on, because in every other Batman ever printed, she is the one who does not get a scene. The mother who lived. In every other continuity, Martha Wayne is a body on a pavement, a broken string of pearls, and a reason. Here she buries her husband and keeps going, which forces the book to do something almost no Batman comic has ever needed to do. It has to write her as a woman with a job, a temper, and a view. She smokes on a windowsill with the mayor and says she thinks her husband would have liked Batman. Then the mayor tells her about finding the body and how he did not see him at first, and how he heard the scream before he saw anything. So what does surviving cost her? The book is very clear that it is not free. She says that before that day her son told her everything, every dumb detail of his day. His whole inner life was hers to know, and now she barely knows him at all. The panel under that line is a first-place science fair medal held in a hand. The prize is still in the house. So is the boy. Neither of them is any use to her. She knocks on his bedroom door and tells him his friends have come round. He tells her to send them away, and then shouts it. She stands in the doorway and cries where he cannot see her, which is the only grief scene the book gives her, and the friends do not go. 4 of them wait in the yard on a boy who will not open a door, which is the second door in this story, and it is the one that eventually gets answered. The first is the one his father shut, and the comic plays a trick with the words attached to it. Early in issue 1, long before you know anything, a masked man seals a room of terrified civilians. He tells them not to open the door, whatever they hear. 10 pages later, a school teacher says exactly that to his son. So the vigilante has been quoting his father the entire issue. Awake, in the present, the mother is sitting on a stoop in the cold, complaining that he has kept her waiting an hour. He says sorry. He swung by the zoo. She forgives him. It is the flattest, most ordinary exchange in the volume, and an assassin is standing in a doorway across the street timing a shot because he has already worked out that the mother is the weakness. He talks himself out of it, which tells you money is not the only thing this Bruce Wayne is short of. He is short of cover, and that is the first item on a very long list. What replaces a fortune? Item 1, no years abroad. There is no Henri Ducard, no monastery, no decade with foreign masters, because a decade abroad is something you buy. He takes a scholarship instead, fakes a soft tissue injury in his first week to get out of playing, and reads for the rest of it. The man tailing him notices, checks the x-rays, and concludes he was saving his body for something. Applied mechanics, chemistry, criminal psychology, military theory. Item 2, no family company, so no research division and no budget line. Instead, he takes city jobs, the power grid, then the water department, then sanitation, then an internship at City Hall studying public policy, which is how a man with no money learns a city from the inside. By the present day, he is running a repair crew, and he fixes the same stairs he blew up the night before. And the man watching all this calls it impressive, then adds that crusaders always have a weakness. Item 3, no bot equipment, and this is the one the book is proudest of. The first pass at this Batman is theatrics, and he says so himself. Face paint, a voice distorter, silicone fangs loaded with paralytic, which is how he was biting people through the neck 2 pages earlier, and a pistol, which he holds to a man's head and then drops into a burning barrel. Because frightening the most desperate criminals in Gotham is not a plan. Somebody else just takes their corner. So he goes bigger, and the bigger version is still made by hand. The car that flips an articulated lorry in a tunnel is a bottle jack, a hobby-grade radio car, a motor, and some black paint. The whole thing costs under $1,000, and it takes 80% of the illegal guns coming into the city off the road in one night, which is a better return than anything in the cave. The suit is the same story. Buzzsaws in the gauntlets, which he admits himself might be too much. His father in Flashback tells him, too much is probably good these days. This is where the publishing record earns its place, because the poverty was a decision, and the decision is documented. An early draft gave him high-tech gear supplied by his friend Edward Nygma, a nanotech cape that wrapped his arm and hardened into spikes. Snyder cut it. In a September 2024 interview, he said the idea cut against the character, and that everything should be self-made. Notice what that sentence does not say. It does not say Bruce works alone. The friends in the room. He has more help across these 6 issues than any Batman in print. It is just that none of it can be bought. Because the other thing that Gunman took was the Rogues Gallery. Edward Nygma, Harvey Dent, Oswald Cobblepot, Waylon Jones, and Selina Kyle were all in that class. And all of them came out of the Bat House alive. In this continuity, they grew into his friends, which is a structural decision rather than a sentimental one. There is a poker game in issue 2 that does more work than any origin flashback in the arc. Bruce turns up broke. The pot is $1,728, and the one in the round glasses cannot stop himself pointing out that this is the volume of a cubic foot. That is the Riddler. Here he is a friend doing arithmetic at a card table, while everybody tells him to shut up. There is an empty chair at that table, and somebody asks whether anyone has heard from her lately. A postcard from Cairo, a couple of months back. That is the whole of Catwoman's absence, handled in one line. He finds an armored ape skull on his City Hall repair round and drops it on the poker table. Nobody wants monkey bones in the pot until Bruce points out that the thing is full of wiring. The Riddler reads it in about 4 seconds and identifies a mapping system feeding shared targets onto a private network, which means anyone who could decode it would know where the gang was going to hit next. So the intelligence breakthrough of the whole arc costs Bruce nothing except a friendship he is already lying to. Then the table asks, what could be driving a gang tearing a city apart? And Bruce guesses power. The blonde man in the suit corrects him. Money, the source, the chicken, and the egg, both. That is Harvey Dent, explaining to the only man at that table who has none of it that money is what runs everything. And the last card dealt in the scene is a joker, which nobody there wants. The favors keep coming, and they keep costing. In issue 3, the Riddler builds him a working artificial intelligence and lets him interrogate it. When the answers run out, he stops being useful and starts being honest. He says seeing too much is why friendship has never come easily to him, that this is why he values Bruce's, and he asks him to please stop. Harvey goes further. He digs into a fund that could get him fired and calls from outside a courthouse with a minute to spare. Private prisons, black sites, money in them from biotech, pharmaceutical, and genomics firms. So the substitution is finished, and it is not an upgrade. He has traded a supply chain for 6 people who can be hurt, which leaves one thing outstanding. If Bruce Wayne does not have the Wayne fortune, then somebody in this universe is holding it, where the money actually went. Issue 1 closes on an epilogue aboard a ship, and it is the coldest page in the volume. 2 men discuss the target the assassin was pulled off in order to come to Gotham, a man he had chased for 5 years. That man studied with Henri Ducart in France and then killed him. He trained with the League of Assassins and then killed them. He is one of the 30 richest people alive. Every name he uses is fake, and he has never laughed at anything, which is why they call him the Joker. Read that back as a list. The Fortune, Ducard, the League, the training montage every Batman film has shot. None of it was deleted from this universe. It was handed to the clown. So this is not a Batman with a handicap. It is a Batman whose advantages are all standing on the other side of the board, wearing them, and the man watching him from the rooftops is on the payroll. That should have been his. Alfred Pennyworth here is not a butler. He is a career intelligence operative with 20 passports, under orders to observe and not engage. He watches Batman visit Joe Chill in prison, decides he likes him more for it, and files it. Then his handler tells him to drop the surveillance protection he had quietly been giving the man. He considers arguing. He thinks about making the case. Instead, he removes the protections, which is how the gang finds every hideout, and how the volume's first real defeat arrives from behind a desk. Those hideouts are worth a sentence of their own, because they are the cave. He does not have one. He has dozens in the empty top floors of towers owned by companies and oligarchs who never use them. Hollow investments in a city with a housing crisis, and he knows which ones because he worked on them. So the Batcave here is other people's tax arrangements, borrowed by a council engineer. The old soldier's doctrine is that a good commander knows when to advance and when to retreat and regroup. His verdict on this one is that he only ever does the first thing, which is a fair criticism. And the next issue is 100 pages of explaining where the stubbornness came from. The father in the courtroom. Issue 4 explains why the whole thing holds together, and it is the odd one out on the shelf as well. Snyder and Dragotta plotted it together, and a guest artist drew it, Gabriel Hernandez Walta, so the Flashback issue looks nothing like the 5 around it. It cuts between 2 rooms, a boy building a model bridge with his dad, and the same boy in a courtroom facing the man who shot him. The first bridge design is enormous and frightening, high reinforced piers, gates all along it. His father asks whether intimidation is really the best thing to hand a place that is already in trouble. Then he tells the boy about his own father, who drove the G39 bus route 6 days a week. On the day off, the 2 of them would walk out on the pier at Amusement Mile and buy a frozen banana dipped in chocolate. One Sunday, the man dropped dead on the way there. Massive coronary. Dead before he hit the ground. So the boy decided to become a heart surgeon because of the terror of being left alone like that. He was about to apply to medical school when his wife got pregnant, and that ended it. What he actually wanted, he says, was to stop other children feeling what he felt that morning. And teaching does the same job. And then he says something that is quietly doing an enormous amount of work. Maybe in some other life he says, I am a doctor. Dr. Thomas Wayne is the canonical version of that man, the surgeon, the philanthropist, the hospital wing. This comic has him name that man out loud as a road he did not take at a kitchen table in Crime Alley, which is the archetype violation being announced by the character it is being done to, and that is a rare thing to get on a page. He also asks the boy what makes a bat at its core, which is the question the suit eventually answers. The bridge is the other half of it because the final design is the opposite of the first one. Lightweight, foldable, droppable from a plane with the instructions printed on a flap, so the people there can put it up themselves and never have to rely on the powers that be to do it for them. That is a 10-year-old stating the political position the adult version spends 6 issues acting on. In the courtroom, he refuses to hear the shooter's statement at all. He says the man killed that happiness forever, that he hates him, and he walks out. No forgiveness, no lesson, no lifelong vow against killing. Just a child telling a prisoner he hates him. The next thing on the page is a cave full of bats, found on foot with nobody's name on the deed. So when somebody finally offers this man a fortune, we already know exactly what it is worth to him. $200 million in cash. At the end of issue 3, the man behind the gang calls with a bribe, and how he sells it is the entire point. Stand down for 1 week. $200 million. And think, he says, about all the good Batman could do with that kind of money. The cars, the weapons, the tech. He would be something larger than life. Stop and look at what is actually on the table there, because it is not a bribe in the ordinary sense. It is the other Batman. The cave, the jet, the satellite. The villain is offering to fund the version of this character that every other continuity begins with, and he takes the deal. To understand why that is not a surrender, you have to go back to a funeral in the rain. Jim Gordon pulls the boy aside and tells him he has seen a lot of brave acts, but has not known many brave people. His father was one. He sort of shone with it. Then he says the zoo is going to be torn down and replaced with something practical, so the boy will never have to look at it again. 2 issues on, the money has landed, and the buyer wants to know what it went on. Cars, planes, bat computers. He asks, "How much did you use?" "All of it." And the comic cuts back to the graveside, where a soaked 10-year-old is running after the mayor to stop him. He does not want practical. He wants something on that ground that makes everyone look, something that shines. So the adult spends $200 million on a memorial light, a bat built out of banknotes, set alight over the skyline his father died under. The news feed calls it a massive bat made of money. The man who paid for it calls it ugly. Then Batman tells him he does not need cars or planes or computers, and that he does not need anything you have. All he needs is Batman. It is a spectacularly expensive way to make a point, and the book is honest enough to let somebody say so. Watching the cash burn, the man in the skull mask tells him the only hero of this story is money, and offers to prove it. For about 10 pages he does. Batman is netted, strafed from a helicopter, and left in a road. Progress is dead, he tells the city on a live feed. Truth is dead, so stop struggling and take the money. Then he airdrops crates of masks and guns across Gotham and offers hundreds of millions of dollars to anyone who picks one up, which is the real test the volume has been building toward. Not whether Bruce Wayne can be bought, whether everybody else can, the price of the name. In issue 6, the masks go on, and the network starts pricing strangers in the street. Robbery, $50,000. Arson, $100,000. Murder, $250,000. And when it looks at the mayor of Gotham, it offers $1 million. Standing beside him is a woman who has just taken the deputy mayor's job and who is not going anywhere. Because that is what Martha Wayne does with her survival. She takes the most dangerous public office in the city during a killing spree on purpose. And here is the number this entire video has been walking toward. In a Batman story with no Wayne fortune, the only sum of money ever attached to the Wayne name is the bounty on his mother. $1 million. The same as the mayor, itemized on a display inside a stranger's mask. 2 of the gunmen decide they would rather not shoot a woman and tell her to run. She plants herself in front of the mayor instead and tells them that if they are killing him, they can start with her. Meanwhile, her son has talked a friend into flying him out over open water in a light aircraft. He is not going there to win a fight. He is going to find the local server and switch the money off. The friend points out that he barely has the fuel to get home and cannot stay to save him. He is not asking him to. He jumps. And the man he is beating will not stop talking, so Bruce keeps hitting him and screaming at him to keep going. "Tell me again," he says, "how I do not matter." Which is the lion. Fed, safe, protected, and worth nothing, said by a schoolteacher at an enclosure and thrown back at a rich man on a boat. He says he loves it. He says it twice. It is the least stable this character gets in the volume. Then he puts a garrote round his own throat to make a point about who can take more. The server dies. The display stutters and reprices Martha Wayne at $0. And the men holding the guns immediately ask whether that means there is no money. When they are told there is not, they lower them, and she knocks one of them down herself. Nobody is redeemed there. They stop because the incentive stopped, which is a colder rate on people than most Batman comics will print. That is Volume 1, and the record around it is worth stating plainly. The arc was published as 5 parts and printed as 6. Issues 1 and 2 carry the words, Part 1 of 5 and Part 2 of 5 on the chapter page. From Issue 3, the count is simply dropped. The headings read Part 3, Part 4, Part 5, and Part 6. The collected edition gathers all 6. Nobody at DC has explained the change on the record, so nobody should invent a reason for it. The series did not stop there. 23 issues have shipped, the most recent in August 2026, plus an annual and a one-shot. It is ongoing, a 24th issue is solicited, and an oversized 25th is scheduled for October, which is a strange sentence to be writing about the Batman who has nothing. The volume's own last page is a man nobody has met giving an order about Bane, which is what Volume 2 is for. We said this would end on the $200 million, so here is what it bought. A light over a demolished zoo and a promise a soaked 10-year-old made to a policeman about wanting something people would look at. His mother is putting photographs in an album while all of this is going on, and he tells her that the picture of the 5 of them was taken by his father at the zoo minutes before the shooting started. She says she knows. She says that is part of why she loves it, because his father stayed hopeful and was at his most hopeful about him. So everything else that money could have bought was named on the page and refused by name. The cars, the planes, the computers. What the book puts in the gap where the fortune used to be is not equipment. It is people, and every one of them can be reached. A mother with a public job and a price on her head. 5 school friends who should have been a rogues gallery. A father who admits at a kitchen table that he is standing in for a doctor in some other life. Every other Batman is a man who bought his way to the top of Gotham and then decided to be angry about it. Strip the money out, and you do not get a smaller Batman. You get the children who were in that room with him, and a version of Bruce Wayne that DC has quietly deleted. The one whose absence in every other continuity is exactly what turned those children into his rogues. He is not coming back, and the lion is still the reason. Safe, fed, protected, afraid of nothing, and it never meant very much.